There are a lot of Schwarzenegger films that have memorable quotes, but today we're going to look at one of the most quoted. Sure, everyone knows Terminator and Terminator 2, but this one has spawned more memes than even that series. It's also the start of a movie series that is still getting new entries even in 2018. I'm Ollamh, and welcome to Geek Corner Reviews Predator. This movie starts off with a ship flying past Earth and depositing a landing pod of some sort. And this is where we have to start questioning things. The fact is that we don't know anything about this ship, and this could spawn a lot of theories right here. Was that a Predator ship, or did another alien species capture a Predator in a fight? Is the pod an escape pod from a damaged Predator ship? Is it a prison ship and the Predator that lands on Earth is a criminal? All these questions and more will remain with us through the end of the movie. We cut to a helicopter landing on a beach at a military camp of some sort. As the team exits the chopper, it almost feels like a bunch of frat boys going on an excursion. Like maybe all of them were in the same fraternity in college and go on a yearly hunting trip on some jungle island. We see Dutch, played by Schwarzenegger, meet with the general who informs him that there's a lost chopper with a cabinet minister and aide. Apparently, they strayed across the border between some random country and they couldn't think of a Namesville. Dutch and his team were brought in by an old friend.
You son of a bitch. What's the matter? The CIA got you pushing too many pencils? Huh?
Hey, take it easy on him. In 9 years, he winds up losing that arm to an alligator and has to tutor Adam Sandler in golf. We find out that while Dutch and his team are military experts, they do have a sense of right and wrong. They will do black ops extractions, but not assassinations. Dylan gives him a rundown on the mission and tells Dutch that he's going along. Obviously, Dutch is already a little suspicious about the operation.
General, my team always works alone.
We get to see how tough the team is, going into the jungle without a care in the world and joking left and right. They're such total badasses that one of them even shaves during the chopper ride. Finally, they rappel down into the jungle and find the downed chopper, which isn't quite as was explained. It seems it was a surveillance chopper and was taken down by a heat-seeking missile. The tracker lets Dutch know that there were guerrilla soldiers that took the men from the chopper, but that there were also 6 men wearing U.S. Army boots following them. Dylan explains it away, but Dutch seems to be getting more and more suspicious. The scout finds 3 bodies strung up and skinned, which does not seem to be expected by anyone present. Searching the remains, they find out they were U.S. soldiers. Dutch wants answers, but even Dylan didn't know about any operation. The scout, Billy, notices that they were firing in all directions, but there's no tracks for who they were shooting at.
They were shooting in all directions. I can't find a single track. Just doesn't make sense.
As the team gets more serious, they break out the heavy artillery, which makes me wonder why they were hauling it around if they weren't actually planning on using it before now. We also get to, kind of, see the Predator for the first time. Even if it's just a bunch of leaves, then cuts to his heat vision view. And this is one of the overlooked brilliant moments of this movie. See, with the Predator's armor bending light so that he's invisible, that would mean that there's no light to hit the rods and cones in his eyes, or the sensors in his helmet. So he wouldn't be able to see. That means he would have to rely on something that isn't going to require actual light, hence the heat vision. The team starts hurrying along the trail as the predator stalks them from above. Dutch senses something wrong and even looks up into the tree where the predator is hiding. We also notice that Dylan is not up to sneaking around in the jungle. They sneak up on the village just in time to scope it out and see one of the hostages get shot. Dutch decides that they need to hit the encampment right away. What follows is typical 80s action scene. Gunfire, explosions, and lots of bad guy deaths. It turns out that things aren't anywhere near what Dutch and his team were told. The cabinet minister was actually CIA, and there were Russian military advisors involved as well. Dylan and Dutch have a confrontation about the false story and how one old friend betrayed another.
You used to be somebody I could trust. I woke up. Why don't you?
Again, honestly, pretty normal 80s action fare. Meanwhile, the Predator is watching the team as they pack up and try and make it across the border for pickup. He's analyzing and recording their words and sounds. Having seen them at work, he knows just how to take each of them out. Also, for the first time, we get to hear the clicking sound of the Predator, a sound that will, in years to come, become one of the more frightening sound effects. While the team is making their way through the jungle, the Predator decides that it's time to start hunting. While the prisoner escapes, one of the soldiers chases after her, and the Predator takes the opportunity to make its first kill on this team. We still don't see much other than a shimmering outline as he's still cloaked. They find the entrails of the lost soldier, and it quickly becomes clear that there's something worse going on here than any of them first thought. The team starts to search for the body, and against all common sense, splits up. Poor Jesse Ventura gets taken out by advanced alien weaponry, which honestly looks slow and cumbersome. You would think that the projectile would fly much faster. The team converges on the body and starts shooting at the Predator, even though only one of them actually saw anything at all. Now, I'm not sure how much equipment they brought, but I think they just went through a huge chunk of their ammunition supply. The wound on Ventura is very confusing, with no signs of standard weaponry and a cauterized wound. The prisoner notices neon glowing blood on a leaf, but she's the only one. Again, for a specialist team of Black Ops soldiers, they are very unobservant. After setting up traps all around the area, they take a breather, because why not camp where a friend died? Finally, we see the Predator without his cloaking field on, as he tends to a leg wound. It seems that one of the thousands and thousands of bullets managed to actually hit him, and he at least has a medical kit and not just weapons. The extraction is still denied, as they try and figure out what hit them. Granted, Dylan not being able to keep the next contact time straight doesn't suggest that he's a very smart person.
Roger, Blazer 1. 10:30 hours.
Everyone seems pretty spooked as they hunker down for the night. It's far from peaceful as a wild boar comes out of the jungle and gets slaughtered. The Predator takes the opportunity to claim his trophy, stealing Blaine's body in the confusion. They finally realize that the hunter is using the trees to get around the tripwires they set up. We get a montage of the team trapping the area, this time setting things up in the trees as well as on the ground. Sitting down to wait, I have to wonder about this plan. As much as Dylan is a jerk and the obvious bad guy, he's right about moving out. Staying in one place is likely to just get everybody killed. And seriously, is shaving and drinking this guy's only character traits? I'm all about being clean-shaven, but there's a time and a place. The prisoner, Anna, tells a story about a man that was butchered in the hottest season they had for a while, which indicates that this isn't the first time a predator has visited. Dutch moves out into the killing field to try and lure the alien in, and it works. Kind of. Sadly, the predator doesn't get caught for long in the net and starts shooting the traps, using them against the team. Dylan, after seeing the predator's cloaking field falter for a moment, decides to go after the predator and the sergeant that is chasing it, sending the rest of the team to the chopper. Using the recordings, the predator tricks Dylan in close, and Mac points out how to spot the predator. You have to wait for it to move and look for the disjointed outline. The two decide to try to sneak around and flush the predator out, which goes as well as one would expect with half an hour still left in the movie. As Mac is sneaking through, he notices 3 dots in a triangle formation shining on his arm. The first time we actually see the targeting system for the predator. Moving around, the targeting light moves to his forehead, and a single shot sounds as his head completely explodes. Dutch shows that he understands the enemy best, as Anna starts to pick up a dropped weapon and he tells her to leave it. He realizes the only reason she wasn't attacked before is because she was unarmed. There's no sport in hunting a target that can't fight back. Dylan, still hunting, creeps up and finds Mac, somehow with his face and head still intact. I'm not sure how that could be, as we saw his head being blown off. The predator uses the sound recordings of Mac to spook Dylan, who draws on the predator and starts shooting. But his arm gets shot off, his finger still pulling the trigger. This guy just can't get a break in any movie. Dutch and his team are still working their way to the extraction point when Billy decides to make a stand with nothing but a knife wetted with his own blood. It doesn't make much sense, though, that the fresh wound would be cooler than his body. We don't actually see Billy die, but just hear his scream. In theory, the predator took him out with a melee weapon, as we didn't hear a shot. But right after that, it's in the trees next to Dutch and shoots the wounded soldier. Dutch makes use of the superpower of being the action hero to survive a direct shot to the chest and yells for Anna to
Run! Go! Get to the chopper!
Ah, there it is. Dutch manages to stumble away. Why the predator doesn't kill him right then and there, as he has with all the others, is kind of confusing. But Dutch manages to get away by sliding off a cliff into a raging river and over a waterfall. Being the lead character pays off quite well, it seems. The predator dives after Dutch, and his cloaking field gets fried in the water. Dutch readies himself for death, but is covered in mud, which masks his body heat.
He couldn't see me.
Fun fact, Arnold's side of the action was shot at night with him covered in potting clay, which is why he's shivering. He was just that cold. Dutch realizes why the predator wasn't able to see him and formulates a plan. Setting up rather primitive traps, which you would think the predator would hear, he gets ready for the final confrontation. The predator, meanwhile, rips the dead Billy's spine and skull from his body and freezes the rest? I think he was cleaning the skull off for a trophy, which he has stored and spent some time caressing. Which leads Wade to the idea that this is not a normal hunter. There's something really weird about this particular predator. Dutch, in the meantime, makes a bow and readies himself for the fight. Dutch lights a torch and screams out a challenge to the predator, who is more than happy to accept. It appears that the cloaking field was repaired as the predator stalks Dutch, but can't see him because the temperature masking mud. The roles have reversed as the predator starts shooting blindly in the general direction of Dutch. The predator seems to respect Dutch enough to remove his weapons and mask, facing off against the man hand to hand. The predator seems to have regained the upper hand as he knocks Dutch around like a toy. Except Dutch lures him through the previously laid trap, which doesn't work as planned, but ultimately does still work. Kind of. It seems even the predator can speak English. As he starts a timer on his wrist. He mimics the laughter he recorded earlier and blows himself and a fair chunk of the jungle up in what appears to be a nuclear explosion. It's enough to signal the rescue chopper, which finds Dutch standing there in the smoke, again impervious thanks to the powers of lead actor, and they rescue him. And that was the 1987 Arnold Schwarzenegger film Predator. It has all the hallmarks of a classic 80s action film. Tough male lead, lots of blood and death, and grueling filming conditions. It was filmed in the jungle, leading to problems with leeches, snakes, stifling heat and humidity, and rough terrain. At least during the day. At night it was freezing cold, like when Arnold was half naked and covered in wet pottery clay. I'm not sure that a film like this could be made today. The conditions the cast dealt with really comes through in the final product. The characters look miserable because the actors were miserable. Granted, there would be, and in later movies in the series are, more action because of better costumes and the availability of CGI. There's something that just really makes this movie unmistakable and amazing. Like with all our non-gaming videos, this isn't just a summary and review, but hopefully a conversation starter. So what do you think of the original Predator? Do you think it still stands up, or is it overshadowed by follow-up entries into the series? Leave a comment down below, send us a tweet, or a post on our Facebook page, and let's discuss it. As always, thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to press the subscribe button down below so that you can stay tuned for more from Ollamh Productions.
If you wanna see some crazy,
Cheerio!
you should meet me and my friends.
I mean, I would like to think that I was. I would like to think that this was like the case of, you know, curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought him back.
Oh, a movie, Slater cleans himself off with just a few napkins.
Everyone finds this a little convenient.